Hey, everybody, it's Christian Buckley doing another MVP Buzz Chat, and I'm talking today with Johan. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
It's great to have you and to chat with you and get to know you. So, for folks that don't know you, who are you, where are you, and what do you do?
Yes, so I'm a Biceps MVP from Sweden. I am on the Dynamics MVP track, not on the CRM side, but on the ERP side, the finance and supply chain and warehouse and commerce side of the fence. And I've been doing this for like 11 years, working with F&O and AX before that. And before that, I have a more traditional IT background, servers, clients, mail servers, Microsoft 365s and stuff.
It's always interesting, having been in IT my entire career, going back and hearing about people's kind of paths, the journeys into the space. Like, what did you start in tech? Have you been in tech your entire career?
Yes. So I have like almost a bachelor's degree. Not really. I didn't really finish it, but I'm from the computer science side of things. So my first job was actually setting up an ISP for the place where I lived. So we did like fiber to companies. We did dial-in modem pools. We had mail servers, web servers, and all of that stuff. So pretty much a lot of networking was the main things. And then it was like back in the days, it was like Windows NT 3.5 was the first one. I remember installing it from floppy disks, and like the 34th one was broken, and that was not a happy place to be in.
I know a bunch of people that had that kind of path as well. I worked for the phone company in California, and I stayed on the telephony side of things. And I had friends that left Pacific Bell and went over to start Pacific Bell Internet Services. But they later on they went to some of these smaller areas where they were able to go and get like a T1 into an area, and then started a little ISP for this small area and grew their business that way.
That was basically what we did. I worked for the power company, and what we realized was that if we are laying cable in the ground, we might as well lay fiber as well, because it's not that much more work. It's the same hole in the ground, so it takes the same amount of cost. So we might as well do fiber, and that was during a time period in Sweden where there were a lot of the large telecom providers were doing like these city networks for like the municipalities and stuff. And what we realized was that doing this by ourselves was actually a lot cheaper to do. So
well, it is interesting to hear. Like I know that there in the US there were some very forward-thinking developer companies that would go in and do kind of planned cities and fiber everything. It was a bit slower and more painful, I think, to get a lot of the fiber going. In fact, where I just moved from 3 months ago, like we had just gotten fiber, like 6 months ago. Just because of all the other infrastructure and having to go back through and the additional cost and overhead for that. So
I don't think you like to hear this, but this was back in like the 2000s.
Yeah,
that was when.
No,
when
I remember. It's again, some of my friends that were doing this were in this space. This was in 2000 to 2004.
Yep. So I think that Sweden has been fortunate enough to have a fairly early build out of fiber and broadband internet as well. So
yeah,
that's cool.
So let's talk about your journey to becoming an MVP. I always like to ask that question. Like, I mean, you've been in it for a few years in the program, but what was that journey like? Was it something, were you aware of the program? How did you find out about it? How did you get introduced to it?
Yeah, I used to work at the company where we had I think we had 7 MVPs or something like that. Okay. It was an IT security company, and back then, I always felt like, yeah, so those are the superstars. Those are, I mean, I'm not at that level anyway. So yeah, might as well just enjoy working with those people anyway. But I've always had like a passion for sharing information, both with others and with myself. I have one of my personal heroes is Scott Hanselman from Microsoft,
Mhm.
and he has said at some point in time that you have a finite amount of keystrokes in your lifetime. Make them count. So make them as efficient as possible. Share them with as many people as possible. Never ever write an email explaining a technical problem. Write a blog post and send him the link instead.
Yeah. Hanselman and another person that was influential to me as well, because I'm a blogger, I'm a writer, number one, and so but was Robert Scoble.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and he was pushing that. Of course, I had already had a blog for a few years. I started mine, and my this is my second blog, but this second blog was started in February of 2004. So a while back, but I did for 2 years. I was on TypePad, if you remember that.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Prior to that, um, but yeah, it was Scoble early on, and then he went to when he joined Microsoft and kind of went through all of that, and it just it's a there's actually a researcher that I read an article back in that era, like 2001, 2002. There was a Microsoft employee, but living down in the Bay Area, who was researching the capacity of the brain and memory. And he was going through an activity where he was cataloging everything that he was doing,
Yep.
and with video and through like everything. And it just was fascinating, this idea of, and I started my blog to do that because I knew I wouldn't remember all this, just cataloging information that I cared about with my thoughts around it. That's
Yep.
how I started it.
Yep. Yep. I mean that's my path. Well, I can't even tell you how many times I've Googled something and found my own blog post explaining to me what I need to do. But I mean that's also developed into what I do a bit today, because I have started looking into there are a couple of people in the world doing these second brain things. Where you basically have like a note taking tool. It could be OneNote, it could be something else. I'm personally using a tool called Obsidian, which is a markdown tool where you can basically write your own knowledge base and link article and provide information. So it's a way to capture all of your information. So that's
Mhm.
also one thing that I think is really interesting, to write things down and be able to get back to them and have, I mean, not having to hold on to every knowledge thing, but actually write it down in a way where you know where it is and that you can continue working on it at the later point in time.
Yeah, so I'm a OneNote guy for that, but I will do that. Like I'll go write an article, same as you. I'll find stuff like, wow, I and there's a completed article. I'm not as good at going back when I complete something to grab the URL where it's published, put it in OneNote, so I have kind of the full circle there.
Mm.
Could go see, the dialogue. But I will often search my own content before while I'm writing, like what else have I written on this topic? What other notes do I have?
Mm.
Because it's not rarely are they finished thoughts. Like I will just use to gather
Yep.
information.
Yep.
Is writing you say like your primary contribution type or
I think I like writing. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of time. That's the biggest problem with writing. It takes a lot of time. I mean, of course, editing video and stuff also takes time. But I would say that writing and podcasting is probably the two main things that I like to do, because I also the reason why I like podcasting is because it's a very easy medium to consume. You can do it while doing other things. You can do it while riding your car. You can do it while doing the dishes or folding laundry or whatever. So that's why I really like it. So I have three podcasts of my own, and I listen to an immense amount of podcasts during a week. So that's my main way of consuming information, I would say.
Yeah, I find it's funny. I would so I'm a reader, I'm a writer, and so I would say I read more than I listen to. But I have like there's two podcasts I listen to almost every day. I'm constantly have something
Yep,
on. I go out for a walk. It's a podcast that I'm listening
yep,
to.
yep, yep, yep,
I'm working out at the gym. I'm listening to podcasts.
yep.
It's amazing how that has evolved and changed.
Yeah, and I think that the reason why I really like it is it's a very democratic media. I mean, it doesn't cost a lot to do. I mean, you basically need your phone, and then you can do a podcast. It doesn't take more than that. You don't need to do that much editing. You don't need to have fancy microphones and stuff. You can do basically whatever you want on your phone, and I mean, as long as you have an audience of one, then you will be able to contribute outside of your own brain, so to speak. So, I mean, most people tell me that, yeah. But I don't have anything that I would like to say. But you have something that you're interested in. Why
Mhm.
shouldn't someone else be interested in that?
Yeah. Yeah,
And I mean,
I had a conversation with the guy a few years back. It was we were talking about like a specific, Microsoft had released something or other, and some leader at Microsoft or an MVP had written what he called the definitive article of like what you need to know. Is like he says it wouldn't make sense. Like I was thinking about going and writing a blog post. He's like, but I'm not going to go write my blog post now because this other person already wrote the article on that, and I just point people to that article. I said, well, that's fine. That would not stop me from going and writing an article because, like you and I writing on the same topic, you don't have my voice, you don't have my history, the story, the followers, the way I write, the humor that I inject in, it's going to be different.
yep,
All those other things, and people that might prefer my article over yours, even if the you know subject matter is exactly the same. So you should never let that be a limiting factor for you to not go out and create something.
no, I mean, if you think the other blog post is fantastic, then add that as a reference and
Right.
add your own thoughts on it, because that will mean that the other blog post will reach a larger audience. It will get better SEO because anyone searching with with a brain that works sort of like yours will find your article instead of his or hers
Right.
instead. But
Yeah.
then you have a reference to it, and I mean, I tend to be quite explicit in telling people that, so this is sort of not my original thought. This is someone else who came up with this, but I have some contributions. I think I can provide some additional knowledge here or experience or whatever.
Well, that's something I always tell people that are interested in becoming MVPs or just getting more involved in the community. Well, I don't know what to go write about. I don't know what to go and talk about. It's like, well, I'm sure you have an opinion of what other people are doing. A great way to start would be to go in and comment. I mean, through the various forums, on the blog posts, or in the notes, the comment section of videos or podcasts, to connect that way. You can add value as well. At least start forming your own voice on that topic. And then, even if you went in, I actually love it. Somebody just came to me this morning and said, hey, would it be okay if we republish part of your blog post and add to it? I'm like, please do that. I
Yep, yep,
love
yep,
that.
yep,
I'm never going to say no. I think in 21 years of this blog, twice where I've cited somebody's work, referenced them, they've come back and asked me to take it down. And
yep,
I'm like, okay, they
yep,
didn't want their
yep,
content mentioned inside.
yep,
I'm like, oh, okay, I don't argue. Like,
yep,
go pull it down, anonymize whatever I did to it there.
yep,
Um, so the vast majority of times, the thousands of posts that I've had, people don't have a problem with that. They actually love it when I love it when my work gets cited, my writings, my ideas
yep,
elsewhere.
yep.
And I'm happy to collab with people on stuff, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
I constantly hint that out there. to people watching this.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree, because I mean, and that's sort of the reason why I love working with tech as well, because you have an infinite amount of troubleshooting things that you need to do every single day, figuring out why something doesn't work. And I mean, I haven't even reached out to like my colleagues, telling them that if you have a problem, please let me know and give it to me, and I can solve it for you, because it will help me communicate to others what the issue was and how we solved it. So I mean, try to get other people as well to provide you with problems that you can solve for them. I mean, that's sort of a gift. And back to Scott Hanselman, that's sort of what he said, that if someone gives you a problem to solve, it's sort of a gift to you, because you can do a lot of things with it. You can learn things, you get smarter, you can write blog posts, you can do a video article, you can do
Yeah.
whatever. You can automate it away and show people how to do it. So it's sort of a gift to get that feedback that you need help solving an issue.
I always tell people, Johan, you probably appreciate this, is that I hate it when people say, like, I don't know what to write about, I don't know what to talk about. Like, are you kidding me? Well, having worked for many product companies, I know from as fundamentally as a marketing guy, on for product companies, there's the features that we're working on. There's the new Microsoft has new releases. So there's new features, new capabilities, new integrations to go and write about. You have your support team where they're like, what are the major bugs, the problems? Where are customers struggling to understand how something works or not? There's so much to write about, talk about, because the technology and the business needs for that technology are constantly evolving and changing. And somebody needs to go and write about that, talk about that.
Yep. I fully agree. I fully agree.
Well, what are some of the topics that you're most passionate about right now? So in your space, and I know as MVPs, there's a lot of things we write about and talk about that have nothing to do with our category that we're within. But so kind of what are your hot topics right now?
I mean, I've been so since doing working with finance and supply chain, the ERP system. Microsoft have been doing this linking of the CRM to MVP to ERP for a long time now, and making that story a bit better. So they are using something called dual write to connect the ERP system to Power Platform and to CRM. And that's sort of one of the things that I really like working with as well, because it is a challenge, because first of all, it is a bit tough to get it to work sometime, but also it sort of have a bad reputation. It's not deserved. It's an undeserved bad reputation, but it has a bad reputation, and people tend to neglect it when that should actually be the thing that they would look at instead. So that's one of the things. Security has always been sort of part of my DNA since I worked in infrastructure and securing stuff. So that's been in the back of my head as well. So and of course, I mean, right now there is of course a lot of AI. Everyone talks about AI.
I've heard that. Yes.
you have heard the term. Should I
Somebody
explain
talking
it to
about
you?
it. I mean, no
Yeah.
details. It just, but
Yeah,
I hear it.
yeah.
Concept. Yeah.
One of the really big things right now that I'm passionate about learning more about is actually MCP, the Model Context Protocol.
I thought that. I'm sorry. I thought was a reference to Tron with the movie that's the latest that's out there. But yes, I can't.
No.
I'm sorry. I just can't help hearing that acronym and not thinking about the original Tron movie. It's too much part of my DNA.
Okay, I understand. But the modern version of MCP, Model Context Protocol, is actually extremely interesting, because it means, for you guys who haven't heard it, it means that you are able to basically connect multiple agents and software services. It doesn't really have to be an agent. It can be a software system or a. It's also almost like an API or a UI for an agent.
Yeah.
It tells the agent how it can use the system and what it needs to use it. So it gives
Yeah.
it tools and basically a manual to tell it how to use it. And the really fantastic thing with this is that before you could do this, but for every new system that you sent out, you had to retrain the model. So you have to have the model learn again and again and again how to do different things. Now you can actually teach it to use tools. It's sort of like, chimpanzees have learned to use sticks to pick up ants from the ground. This is sort of the same. You
Yeah.
give tools to the agent so that it doesn't have to learn from scratch every single time, but it can actually use it.
No, so having worked at a couple startups where we built, service hubs, that essentially was, I mean, that was the offering of this company, was acting as that middleware to be able to have these disparate systems come in and communicate and go back out and do different things. Now we have this intelligent, a hub that you can build and deploy yourself
Yep,
to do
yep.
these dynamic things. Oh, it's very exciting time.
I mean, one of the things I really liked about MCP was that when I started looking into these different AI services like Microsoft Copilot and Claude and whatever, the problem I think is that they tend to create silos, because if you're in the Microsoft ecosystem, then you use Copilot, and if you're in the Google ecosystem, then you use Gemini. But you can't use Gemini to access a Microsoft solution because there is no connection to it. Having MCP servers for all of your services, like say Outlook and Gmail and OneNote and Todoist or whatever they're called, means that you can actually connect them to the AI model of your choice. You can use whatever AI tool you want and still be able to do the same thing, which
Yep.
is a really powerful tool, because all of a sudden you're not locked into one ecosystem. I mean, I guess that a lot of companies thinks that is a good thing, being locked in, but I mean,
That you've been around long enough to also recognize the cycle of the best of breed versus the single
I
platform, and
mean,
it feels like
you
we're going that direction again towards best of breed.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned OneNote before, and I mean, the main reason why I was a big proponent of OneNote for a really long time. I really, really loved it. But when it comes to linking notes together and making it sort of like a Wikipedia-like structure,
Right.
it doesn't really do that optimal. I mean, there has happened some things, and also one of the things that I was a bit hesitant about was that there hadn't been that much of development. OneNote was OneNote, and it's
Right.
been OneNote for a long time.
Right.
So when I found Obsidian, and I found a couple of YouTube movies about people that really knew how to use it and really knew how to build a knowledge network from
Mhm.
it, I sort of migrated my things over. But I mean, the problem there is that all of a sudden you don't have access to Microsoft To Do anymore, because if you add to do things in your OneNote, they pop up in Microsoft To Do and they pop up in Outlook.
Right.
But all of a sudden you're not able to do that anymore. So that sort of builds another silo next to the other ones. And I'm really, really hoping that MCP will actually give us the interconnection between these systems that would be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any insight into that. I hope for that as well. That's one of those. I know the MVP calls. It always seems to happen. The OneNote MVP calls happen while I have other regularly scheduled calls.
Yeah,
Just
I'm in
see what's
Europe,
going on.
so usually when there are PGI calls, I am either making dinner for the kids or putting them to bed. or I am fast asleep and it's 2 a.m. So that's the two options I have. But I try to listen to as many as possible. But I mean, also the thing is that you might end up in a situation where, and it talks to sort of the interoperability. I mean, it's very easy to end up in a situation where you have a customer who uses, say, Gmail, and you don't have an alternative. You need to use Gmail.
Yeah.
But what if you were able to connect into that Gmail in the same way that you do with all of your other Microsoft-centric services, and be able to surface all of the information in a Microsoft-centric situation? I mean, we talked before the recording. We talked about the calendar issue, where having multiple calendars is sort of a hassle.
Yeah.
So,
well, I go back to, I often reference the first partner conference, Microsoft Partner Conference, when Satya became CEO. And I've blogged about it. There's a couple articles of me writing about this out there, where he made a statement, just to paraphrase, where he said like, we're going to create the best software, and where we don't have the best software or the best solution or any solution, we will partner, because the focus should be on what are our clients trying to do, and then supporting them and giving them the best end-to-end result of what they need to do. That was a and some of the examples he brought up early on were of people using iPhone and needing to be able to integrate in, and kind of all those other things. I look at this idea again of the best of breed. Sometimes you see a clear path where they're trying to create solutions that allow you to go and use what works best for you, and not lock you in to any one path. You must use all of these Microsoft components for any of it to work. And some of them are best of breed and others are barely functional.
Yeah, but I mean, there is, of course, the security aspect of this, that connecting systems together might leak data and whatever. But I mean, there are a lot of examples of where we have actually had a chance to figure out secure ways of doing this. We talked about the calendar before. I mean, there doesn't need to be any text in the calendar blocks for my personal calendar over to my work calendar, but just blocking things out so that I'm not double booked all the time is like fantastic. So
yeah, no, I agree. If all it did was do an equal block of time, blocked it out between those, like that's all you need. And okay, there's something scheduled there, hop over to the other view or have your multi-calendar view. But anyway, that's a longer discussion. I've actually gone and done some wireframes in Chat GPT and Copilot to try and solve some of those problems. And there's other deeper issues around calendars when you get into the browser versus desktop versions and all the different flavors that are out there. But
and also there is one thing. I'm sort of a PC person. I do Windows and everything on a PC. And I'm a bit jealous of the fact that they on Outlook on the Mac has a unified inbox. I'm hoping that someone will listen to this and give me my unified inbox on the Windows side as well, because that would be fantastic.
I know. I've got it right here.
Yeah, exactly. I have it in my Android phone, but I don't have it on my Windows PC, which is sort of even more frustrating, because that means that it's possible. But
I know that. Well, there's and that's why we've talked about this, and this is a problem with Teams for a long time, where I'm like, why don't I just clone it and if I had an Android, I could do it through Windows and just actually have the clone up on my screen, and I could actually access the multi login Teams. So they've solved most of the problems. But anyway. Well, Johan, really appreciate your time. I know we've got a little bit long on this, but thank you for your thoughts, your inputs. Of course, we'll have all of your contact information out in the blog and out on the YouTube for the video as well. So for folks, have any questions, want to reach out, connect with Johan, you'll have all of his
always.
Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Have a nice day.